Welcome to beautiful, bucolic Moldova. A beautiful country that has been my teaching platform for many, many years. I've been a medical missionary for over 40 years. And I know some people were surprised knowing me back then. I was expelled from my academy. I went to college, graduated, joined the Marine Corps 14 years, and then by God's grace brought me into medical missionary work. It's kept me traveling for 40 years. I've traveled all around the world, but the important thing is the people that I meet. I've met some of the most wonderful people, and I've learned a very important lesson. I need to talk to you about a few of my patients. One is Lu Ying. She was brought to me while I was working in Taiwan. She had invasive breast cancer, and it was really bad breast cancer. And so we did a lot of things. I show you a couple of pictures of how it looked when I saw her, how it looked a few days later, much improved. But the most important thing was the time that we spent together in evening time. I would spend 2 hours each night with Lu Ying and her little maid, who was a Muslim, talking about Christ, talking about the Bible, talking about what's happening now, what's going to happen in the future. It was a wonderful time that we spent together. Another patient I think of was Lawrence in Kafui compound in Zambia. I'd teach all morning, and in the afternoons, the students were out looking for people to work on, to practice on. Would find a hard one, they'd come and say, "Sir, you've got to see this one." Well, I went out to see Lawrence. Now, when they saw him, he had a dirty shitingi wrapped around his leg. When I was there, we unwrapped it, and it was a flesh-eating bacteria eating his leg away. And we worked, taught him how to treat himself, things he could do. It was a wonderful time together. Another one would be a little young man named Francis down in Yonga, Zimbabwe. His sister came to me, she says, "My brother has a sore on his knee." I says, "Great." I had some charcoal patches, impregnated, sort of like a gel. I gave her enough for 4 treatments, 4 morning, 4 in the evening time. I says, "This should take care of it." Came back in day 5, no better. I said, "Okay, let's go see the boy." So we went to see him. As I unwrapped the wrapping around his knee, I saw a tumor the size of a brain. Interesting thing about that tumor, this was about the 2nd week in December. It had been surgically removed in September as 3 months growth of the cancer. We did what we could. It was a short time I was left there, and we did what we could for him. But the one that sticks out the most is a young man named Silas. He and I share a few things in common. This was in Zambia also. He had gone through Adventist schools, raised in an Adventist home, but then he got to the point where I need to go out and enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. When he was 18 years old, he left his home and he went out there. 8 years later, he came home dying of AIDS. He had sores all over his body. He had a yeast infection in his mouth. He was skinny as a bone, upset stomach. But the worst thing that I saw in that young man was a look on his face. It was a look of hopeless, helpless pleading. Now, I got those 3 words from my sister Linda, who was a classmate of mine at Mount Vernon Academy. She was with my father on November the 5th, 1979, when he died in the hospital of cirrhosis of the liver. He was an alcoholic. He had started bleeding in the morning, bleeding from his eyes, his nose, his mouth, just bleeding because no clotting factors left. They were putting unit after unit of blood into his body until finally my sister, who's a nurse and a lot of other things, she looked at them and she says, "No more, no, stop." Because they were just wasting blood, she knew that. She held my father as he died, and that's what she wrote me a few years later, because I was off in the Marine Corps somewhere. She says, "The look on Dad's face, hopeless, helpless pleading." And when she told me that, I made a vow to myself, I will never let someone die in front of me like that, with that look of hopeless, helpless pleading. And by God's grace, not one person has died in front of me, and there's been many who had that look on their face. I teach my students all over the world, the number one purpose of a medical missionary is to get people ready to die. And that's what we were trying to do. And that's what I've been doing for years. So here this man is, a haunted look on his face because he knew he had left God. He knew what he had. Of course, this was back a number of years ago. This was the leprosy of the modern world. He knew that he was cursed by God. That's what he was thinking. Every day I sat with him in the dirt, talking with him, helping him, treating the sores, not a problem. The thrush, not a problem. The upset stomach, not a problem. I got to heal the broken brain. And so we worked day by day by day. At the same time, Stephen Grabner, who was president of Riverside Farm in Zambia, was doing evangelism in Kafue. And so I would go out with him, and I'd spend my time with Silas. It was the last day. It was a baptism. It was a Sabbath, a baptism for the people getting baptized. I was spending my time with Silas. And I went to his place. Now, his sister would not allow him in their house. See, the mindset is like leprosy. You can't come in my house. You might give it to me. So he was sleeping in this little hole in the wall next to her house. So I went in there and I was just waiting. He was sleeping. I was standing there. I was leaning against something, and he woke up. He looked at me and a smile just broke across his face. Carried him out in the sunshine, and we had the most wonderful talk there ever was. The next day, his sister went out to see how he's doing. He talked with her. He says, "Sister, will you pray with me?" And she said he prayed a wonderful prayer. He prayed for his family. He prayed for himself. He prayed for forgiveness. He prayed the most wonderful prayer. When he was done, she went in, she got his breakfast, and she came back out, and Silas was dead. She asked me to speak at his memorial service. Isaiah chapter 57, verse 1. Righteous men die, and good men are taken away, none considering they're taken away from the evil to come. I knew that God waited for Silas until he was ready, that he was safe to save before he allowed him to rest. And I know I'll see Silas again in that time, in that new world which we're waiting for. Like I say, I teach my students, your job, get people ready to die. You know, being a medical missionary, gone almost all the time. I'm separated by miles, I'm separated by years. Some of you, my Mount Vernon Academy classmates, were separated by years. My family back in America, I'm in Europe now, separated by miles. But there's one separation with all my heart I don't want us to experience. It's a separation of eternity. I believe we're living at the end of time. I've lived a bad life, but God has blessed me anyway, and we need to find that relationship with Jesus Christ. He does not want to see that hopeless, helpless pleading in our faces any more than I want to see in anyone I've ever worked with. We need to make sure we've got a right relationship with God, and He wants that relationship more than we do. Lu Ying, she died. Francis, he died. Lawrence, he died. Many of my patients that I've worked with over the years have died, but they died with hope, and that's what I need. I need to make sure people have hope. Today's March the 30th, 2026. 60 years ago today, I was at home in Cincinnati. I was no longer at Mount Vernon Academy, because 60 years ago yesterday, which was also Sunday, the 29th of March, I was expelled. How I got involved in this work? God had a plan. He's always had a plan. He's got a plan for every single one of us. We've got to allow Him to work His plan out in our lives. And if we do that, everything will be just fine. Mount Vernon Academy. We just lost another one not long ago, Rory. And I think of some of the others, Ed, Ray, John, Lois, all our classmates are gone. Brothers and sisters, we've got to be ready for Jesus to come. And my plea is, and my prayer is, that we would find a relationship that we could be at peace with ourselves, with our surroundings, with our God, and with whatever God's plan is for our life. That's what we need. God bless you.